It's hard to point to a time where I was more aggravated by a discourse than what is currently going on right now surrounding Tourette syndrome and something that happened at the BAFTAs just recently. One of the projects that was being honored was a movie about this Scottish dude with Tourette's and his lifetime struggle of having no control over what obscenities he shouts into the ether at any given time. The real guy the movie was based on was invited to the awards show and sat in the audience, and the people who ran the event were briefed ahead of time that this is a guy who has Tourette's and therefore risks the exact situation that ended up happening. At some point, while two black celebrities, Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, were presenting a BAFTA, there was a slight pause in their speech, and during that window you can barely make out John Davidson, the guy with Tourette's, shouting the N-word from the audience. The presenters don't really miss a beat and continue their introduction, but you can kind of see an uncomfortable strain on their faces as they push through, and at one point Davidson removed himself from the auditorium to watch in a separate room as his tics remained an issue for the broadcast. The BAFTAs were filmed on a tape delay, which means editors could have removed or censored that moment for TV watchers, but they chose not to for some reason, though they did choose to cut out a part of an award winner's acceptance speech where they said Free Palestine, so it's not like they wanted the whole thing to be unedited. John Davidson himself brought up afterward how he noticed they had an audience microphone relatively close to his position and thought that was a weird decision since they knew he was there, but the reason discourse has been so fiery surrounding this event is the way a lot of prominent black people have chosen to respond to the situation, calling Davidson a racist, acting like he chose to say the N-word on purpose and Tourette's is just an excuse, saying they would beat up a person with Tourette's who said that to them, saying they don't give a fuck about his disability and proudly refusing to understand it, and acting like the poor disabled white guy from the UK who's been assaulted multiple times for similar incidents and ostracized from public life for decades is somehow more privileged than the famous black millionaires who are on stage. There are fierce exchanges going back and forth from people saying, here's what Tourette's actually is, and people responding, but the N-word, and then people saying, but it's involuntary, and then people responding, but the N-word, and then people saying there is no intent behind it, and it often manifests as the most offensive possible thing, sometimes related to the situation, and then people responding, but the N-word. The backlash is largely driven by a proud, self-righteous, and purposefully ignorant indignation where some, not all, but a lot, of black people and others who agree with their takes either don't want to understand or are masking the fact that they are incapable of understanding. The amount of tweets I saw that can't even fathom how a Scottish person would even know what the N-word is, like, are you kidding me right now? Do you think they live on another planet? Everyone on Earth knows what the N-word is. Every single human being who has ever engaged with particularly your culture, whether it's watching your movies or TV or listening to your stand-up comedy or music especially, we've all heard the N-word, dude. There's no escaping it half the time. They think people in Scotland just eat haggis and practice archery and have bears as parents. They think their top 100 is all bagpipe tracks, that they'd have to go on a racist hobbit adventure to find some old wizard in a faraway cave in the mountains who can pass down the forbidden secrets of the N-word. You would only say it if the word was in your vocabulary. A word being in your vocabulary just means you know how to say the word and what it means, not that you frequently use it on purpose. This is not like PewDiePie saying the N-word playing PUBG where it slips out because it was commonplace in his vernacular at the time. Tourette's only activation clause is, would this be bad to say right now? But they've tried approaching it from all angles. Has he ever said cracker to a white person? In what universe would the worst thing a 54-year-old Scottish person could say to another white person ever be cracker? Are they going to make the face Michael B. Jordan made? Is the air going to be filled with an uncomfortable tension of a taboo rule being broken? Nobody gives a fuck about cracker. He has said fuck the Queen to the Queen of England's face before. Does that count? I think that's worse than calling her a word not a single person cares about. But there's a reason he chose the N-word. If you're saying the word chose, you are betraying the fact that you fundamentally don't understand what involuntary means. You can't choose to involuntarily do something. The type of Tourette's that involves vocal tics means that words and sounds are coming out of your mouth without permission. You can't first send them through a racism filter on the way past your lips. You can't choose what words you use, any more than someone with dementia can choose what to remember. Some of you may know this about me already from my earlier episodes, but I have a form of Tourette's myself, but mine is physical, not verbal. I have facial tics and do specific gestures and actions because I either feel an uncontrollable urge to, or it happens without me even realizing or thinking about it. Unfortunately, due to the inherent racism associated with my form of Tourette's, whenever I walk by a Native American with a drum, it forces me to do the Covington smirk. You can't explain any of this to some people, though. They can't comprehend it. All they know is how they feel, and that is vastly more important than facts and context. They've been programmed to react a certain way when they hear the N-word and to turn off any extra processing power. Some black people, again, not all, find the existence of the disability an inconvenient obstacle in their path toward acting out their base impulses. They want to beat someone up who says the word. Period. They have publicly expressed that desire through their own keystrokes, so you can't say I'm twisting their reasons. Someone saying the N-word to them has been an adequate reasoning for violence for a long time. If you ask the average person what they think of a black dude beating up a white guy who called them the N-word purposely and maliciously, most of them, regardless of race, will say they deserved it and clap or whatever. But when you remove the intent of the word and add meaningful context that absolves the sayer of normal responsibility, to be a black person who still goes into violence mode in that situation is to just be a piece of shit, using racism as a thinly veiled excuse. You would literally be attacking a disabled person who can't help it and who did you no actual harm. But if his disability made him stab people, we'd do something about that, right? Said the extremely retarded person grasping at straws. Yeah, bro, that's called actual harm. You hearing a word is not akin to you being stabbed with a physical knife that draws blood and carries potentially fatal health-related consequences. If that needs to be explained to you, you are stupid and should not be weighing in at all. To say again, sometimes the purported refusal to understand something is actually just an inability to. People cover their stupidity with self-righteousness, a principled stand against engaging with a topic they don't have the faculties to compute. If you're black and you had a visceral reaction to hearing that word because of its innate historical edge, nobody is trying to take that away from you. As long as you don't then turn it into a baseless, allegation-filled crusade against a disabled person who medically cannot help it. I see tweets where black people are like, man, we're always expected to respond with grace and be the bigger person. Everyone just wants to police our behavior right now. That's just calling you out for being wrong. To the ones who take their reactions too far, like by, again, threatening to beat up people with Tourette's. That's the type of behavior that needs policing, because what you are fantasizing about is a crime, dumbass. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while yelling out slurs intermittently, and I'll see you guys next time.